Bigfoot story number 1. Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch or Hairy Man or Hairy Giant, has been in the stories of many cultures around the world. Today, I'm going to read an old newspaper article from the 1920s titled Indian's Legend of the Hairy Man Recalled. On the morning of July 18, 1924, in the Houston Post, there was an Associated Press notice from Kelso, Washington, which read as follows. While awaiting reports from parties who have gone to the vicinity of Spirit Lake on Mount St. Helens to verify a story told by trappers that they had encountered a band of 8 men there last week, residents today were interested in statements attributed to George Totagi of the Chalam Indian tribe that the 8 men were members of a tribe of Indians known as the Sasquatch tribe. The Sasquatches are 7 to 8 feet tall and have hairy bodies like bears, he said. The members of the Chalam tribe, which in a form of the word Chalam, are strong people themselves. That is the meaning. They belong to the Salish division on the coast. The members of the old Sasquatch tribe, spoken of as sea Naptics, are part of the Piscois, which means band in the river. And they also are a Balish tribe. This would account for the knowledge that George Totagi had of the giant hairy people. The Piscois of Sasquatch originally lived on the east coast of the Columbia River, and the Columbia flows to the seacoast. There are many traditions in common with the various tribes and sub-tribes of the same division. They may differ at times in detail, but the traditions hold just the same. Among the Sampoy people, who are another part of the Salish division, there are several tales told of the hairy men. So much detail is included that there must be a foundation for the legends, and the recent report links with the ancient in a surprising manner. Here is the Indian legend. Car Necker, the granddaughter of the official storyteller of the Sampal tribe, not only has told some of the stories in which Chiwaneedam, the Sanpols call them hairy ape men, but she has drawn their likeness from the descriptions given her by agent members who have imprinted it clearly upon her mind. Her talent is purely primitive, and it is a result that is unusual. One tale she tells is of a time when the creatures roamed the forest and the Indian children were cautioned in regards to them. Here is the tale as it was told to the writer. Long ago in the forest there lived a grandmother and her 2 little grandchildren. One day when they went out to play, the grandmother said, "Do not go far from the teepee, because the Chiwaneedam have been seen nearby, and he will catch you and eat you. Stay within sight of the teepee door, and I will protect you." They played hide and seek among the trees and forgot that they must not shout so loud with laughter. Suddenly they heard a sound and looked around. A great hairy man was coming towards them. The little boy, Quatchawe, was almost paralyzed with fright, but his sister, who was older, slid behind a tree. When the Chiwanitam was almost ready to grab him, he turned and ran for his life. The hairy man ran after him. Quachawayan stumbled over a log and fell. As he did so, the long arm, with its cruel hand and sharp nails, reached for him. He scrambled up as fast as he could, but the nails raked 3 long scratches down his little back. And when the scars healed, they left 3 dark marks that made him known as Chipmunk to this day. He darted in and out among the trees until he could run straight into the teepee door. "Hide me," he cried to his grandmother. "The hairy man is coming after me." The hairy man draws near. The old woman looked around. Quechawea had popped into a basket that was nearby. His back hurt so that he was not able to keep still, and the basket wobbled all over the floor. That would never do. The hairy man would have him at once when he arrived. So the grandmother took him and put him into a bag and drew the strings. He whimpered and trembled, so she knew it would be seen immediately. So she took him out and put him in a clam shell, one of the large shells found in the Columbia River. He crept into it and became as much smaller in size. Then she tucked him into the front of her buckskin dress. Be still," she said softly. The hairy ape-man was not long behind. He pulled open the flap of the teepee and strode in. "Where is the boy?" he demanded. Grandmother was not afraid of him because she had power over many things. She shook her head without a word. The hairy man looked into the basket. He looked in the bag and nothing was there. He went outside and met the sister of the little boy. "Go and find where your brother is, and I will give you these," he said, holding up a string of seed beads he had strung. She looked at the beads and admired them. She went into the teepee and asked where her brother was. Her grandmother patted the front of her dress. "He is here in my bosom," she said. The girl went outside. "Look in the bosom of Grandmama," she told the ape-man, and immediately she was changed into a meadowlark and flew upon top of the teepee. I'm sorry," were the words she tried to say, but the song sounded as if it was Wawich-ki-la over and over, and that is why the Indians call the meadowlark a tattletale, and Wawich-ki-la to this day. Going back into the teepee, the hairy man jerked open the buckskin dress and took the poor little chipmunk in his hand. As he did so, he saw the smooth, soft skin of the old woman, and he asked, "What makes your skin so smooth? It is not like mine." Grandma's revenge. Grandmother thought for a moment. "I will show you," she said. She took a piece of pine pitch and held it in the fire. The hot pitch dropped in great drops, and she let one fall on the arm of the hairy man. Then she pulled the blister off, and the smooth place that showed underneath pleased him, although he winced with the pain. "Could I be like that all over?" he inquired. "Yes, if you let me put the hot pitch on," said the old wily woman. "I could dip you all over at once, and you would never feel it." "All right," said the hairy man, and he went with her to gather the pitch from the trees. They gathered wood, and a great fire was made, and the pitch put into a stone pot. When the pitch was bubbling, the old woman and the ape man and little chipmunk danced around and around the hole where the fire was, with the pot upon it. As they were circling nearer and nearer, and the ape man followed them, the old woman gave him a push, and he went head first into the pitch pot. So he never felt anything again, and the little boy played in the forest in safety. The sand poles describe the ape men of the ancient lore as cannibals, and there is a tale of two children who were sent down a trail that led to the river. Their grandfather was on the other side of the river making a boat. His guardian spirit was a crow. There were two trails through that part of the forest, and the sister was told which one to take and warned against following the other one, as it was used by the Chiwanitam, who was a great hairy woman. When the two children came to the parting of the ways, the forbidden trail looked so much more tempting, and she took her brother by the hand and turned into it. After a while, she heard something coming. She began to run back along the trail, but the Chiwanitam caught both of them and put them in her basket. She had a burden basket on her back, in which she gathered wood and anything else she could find. The sister was much frightened and wondered how they could escape. All at once a voice said to her in her ear, "Say your house is on fire and your children will burn." She obeyed and repeated it loudly. The Chiwanitam stopped and listened. Then she put the basket down and ran toward her home. Her young were there, and they were the only thing she cared for. As soon as she was out of sight, the children crawled out and hid under some grass, turning themselves into small white worms, for fear she would return. She was gone a long time, and they mustered courage to take their own form and run to the river, where they called to their grandfather, who came across and got them in the canoe. When they had landed in safety, the Chiwanitam came along the path and hunted for the children. She tracked them to the edge of the river, and then hid and called, "Grandfather, grandfather, come and take me over." "My canoe is too small for you. You must swim across," he called to her. "But I cannot swim. I would drown," she said. "Tie your basket on so it cannot come off, and fill it with stones. They will keep you from floating away," he advised. She collected large stones and filled her basket. Then she waded in and stepped into a hole. She could not get out, and the heavy stones weighed her down. So she perished. And that was the end of Chiwanitam in that part of the country. All of the stories seem to conclude with the extinction of the hairy tribe. The fear shown in the structure of the tail. There is a desire to get rid of them, and they are a thing apart. In view of the report, it is interesting to recall the fact that there is a belief that such ape men existed. Every myth and legend has a basis, and where several say the same thing from different tribes and the same tradition, there seems as if there must be an element of truth. That concludes Bigfoot story number 1.